Hello, everyone. This is Jacob Hanchar, CEO of Digital Dream Labs. Glad you could make it today. When I'm giving this presentation, feel free to interrupt me at any time if you have any questions. We'll keep this nice and casual and relaxed. So without further ado, I'll talk about Puzzlets and how we're establishing educational credibility and the further plans we have for the company. So in 2012, Puzzlets started as a museum exhibit. We had a display in the Children's Museum in Pittsburgh, as well as Houston and Dallas. And the feedback we got from everyone was, we really wish we could take this home with us. So the founders took this concept and shrunk it down through an incubator called Alpha Labs, and then started the business. So when the founders started this, they thought, okay, we have a really cool toy. And you can see here in 2013, they have several prototypes. And you can see the kids playing with the various prototypes, and then the finished product to the right-hand side. But what we discovered is that through some educational preliminary studies and the educational market in general, is that this actually has a very important component of educational validity. We discovered that this increases logic and sequencing skills significantly, as well as increasing reading comprehension, which is something which caught us by surprise. So in pursuing educational validity, we've undergone a number of studies. One of the first studies was Digital Promise, which is backed by the Gates Foundation and is also an act of Congress. And they studied our product from February beginning this year to about April. And some of the quotes that they wrote down from first graders: it's fun, it's like a little video game. Kindergarteners saying the tray makes it really fun, you can move the character on a screen. Basically things we already knew, that the game is very engaging, and that engagement leads to increases in learning. And what the researchers basically said is that evidence from interviews and classroom observations indicated that students across 3 grade levels were highly engaged and enjoyed playing Puzzlets. So they confirmed what we already knew and suspected, that the game is highly engaging. And by being highly engaging, this then transfers into educational validity. If you have a game that actually gets kids motivated, of course it's going to lead to learning. But more importantly, it's the subtleness of our technology that's helping this idea, this concept of improving scores in logic and sequencing skills, which we think enhances executive function and therefore would eventually lead to higher standardized score outcomes. And some of the evidence in our thinking behind this is some of the snippets from the Digital Promise study. We see here in February, when kids were first starting to learn the game, this is the average number of Puzzlets used. And so Digital Promise used that as a proxy for logic and sequencing skills. So obviously the more Puzzlets used, the more complicated the problem, and then the more sophisticated the solution. So we can see here that over the course of 2 months, all grade levels were essentially coming up with a much more sophisticated understanding of Puzzlets. We can see also too that initially second graders performed much better and adopted the technology easier. However, as we progressed, there was no significant difference between any of the age groups, which meant that kindergartners were being able to perform almost as well as the second graders. But then we could see there's a significant difference between the 2 months of playing with the Puzzlets product. So here's the overall beginning. So you can see that kindergartners, of course, and first graders are about in the same range as far as complexity of solving skills whenever they first begin Puzzlets. When second graders start, they can get a number of very complex skills and different solutions. So The educational study we submitted with the Department of Education actually focuses on second grade. It's a 5-year longitudinal study, and we're asking the question, over the course of 5 years, does playing with Puzzlets for a semester, does that give us a positive outcome that lasts for 5 years? And then does that enhance, number one, standardized testing scores, but also the ability to understand scientific topics in the STEM field? So what we've also done in preliminary studies with the Department of Education is with Duquesne University. We discovered that with having Puzzlets, the average goes up about 10% over the course of a semester as far as performance, enhancing logic and sequencing skills. This would be pre and post assessments. But what we saw more than anything was that the lowest scores go up 25%, but most importantly, standard deviation decreases by about 50%. So the lowest performers were essentially being pulled up to the mean, and that our product is essentially leveling the playing field. And this is what essentially spurred us to submit for an IES grant in the Department of Education. So what are we studying in the Department of Education grant? Well, we're taking a look at to what extent does coding Puzzlets enhance academic performance. Another question is, we're going to look at cognitive processes, specifically executive function that I just mentioned. Does that help math and science achievement? Another question we'll be studying is, what's the effectiveness long-term of our intervention? And then what is the long-term academic benefit of using Puzzlets? So those are our main research questions. How we will be examining and collecting data from these questions. Essentially, assessment, time, and who. We're going to take a look at the Tower of London, Drexel University Child Forum. We're going to do behavioral study systems and several other assessments that will be taking a look at various school districts who we've signed up. We have Miami-Dade, we have Pittsburgh Public, and several Pennsylvania schools participating in the study. The study will be relatively large, should include about 500 to 1,000 students across several school districts. And over the course of the next year, we will be adding more schools. So if there's interest in your school participating in this study, please let me know. So that's the educational grant that's been submitted. We'll know whether we get funded in December, and then the program will start next school year for that study. In the meantime, we've been awarded an SBIR NSF grant, taking a look at our second generation product. Our second generation product was built off the concept of engineering. Engineering is the number one thing requested in our educational accounts. So engineering pulls from all the sciences, chemistry, math, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this platform will essentially build upon the concepts of every STEAM category we can think of. And that will also be very interesting as we move forward and into phase 2 next year of the SBIR grant. So what are we talking about when we're talking about this NSF grant? So here's some line art, concept art of what we're trying to accomplish. So we're going to be taking 3D systems and into a whole new level. So we'll have RFID tags that'll be able to be read in a field 3-dimensionally. And that will definitely be an advance in the field without a doubt. Having RFID at a certain distance being read is something that has not been attempted before. So it's definitely new technology and very exciting, because now we can basically build a city, build a rocket, you name it, and then have that imported virtually into the iPad or other connected device, and then save that and then continue to play in the tangible field as well. All right, so we have 2 new games that I'm certain everyone has heard. It's coming out. This is top secret. Please don't share this. It's just for the purposes of this presentation. I'll give some detail, and I'll show you a couple of the new games. So that's basically our presentation today. Those are the sneak peeks and the plans for the company moving forward. I'll open up the floor to questions, and yep, thank you for attending. All right, so I have a question here from one of our attendees. Can you describe, hold on. Can you describe the tiles for the new game? So the tiles will be coming out in 3D printed form initially to test with our beta customers. At least that's what we're planning on doing. And they're going to be different than the current Puzzlet tiles that teach programming. So we're going to have, for example, when you're taking things and adding things in the math game, we'll have a little pickaxe to dig at something to take something away, and then we'll be adding gems to put stuff together. So the tiles we'll be selling separate tiles under, the platform will remain the same, but the tiles will be different for these different games. All right, well, if there are no further questions, I thank you for your time. You can always reach me at jacob@digitaldreamlabs.com. Thank you for attending, and have a good day.